Hello, everyone. Today we will be talking about oral and nonverbal communication in a cross-cultural environment. My name is Caitlin Pepperman.
I'm Megan.
I'm Austin.
I'm Sadie.
So, to successfully have a multicultural business and effectively in understanding oral and verbal communication, it's very essential. So, two important keys that we measure oral communication. The first one is thought patterns. So, by this, we follow two common methods, the deductive method and the inductive method. By definition, the deductive method refers to problem solving that goes from broad categories to general examples to determine facts and then a solution. For example, we use quick decision making that's found very effective in the United States, but it's found very impulsive in Japan. The second method we use is the inductive method, and for us it's the opposite. They use problem solving that starts with facts and then go to a generalization. For them, slow thought is great in Japan, yet is found slow and very frustrating in the United States. So recognizing other cultures having a different pattern is important in communication and negotiating successfully. The second important key that we find in oral communication is paralanguage. By definition, it's the rate, pitch, and volume of the voice that takes place in speech. There are different measures that we can follow paralanguage in. The first one is intensity, meaning how loud or soft you can speak. The pitch, how high or low you speak. The extent, whether you speak with an accent or not. A vocal characterization, meaning if you can cry or laugh more in your voice while speaking. And vocal segregations, meaning how long you can drag out something. For example, versus uh-huh. For paralanguage, it conveys emotion, meaning that we can definitely read negative emotion more than positive emotion. For example, Arabians speak loudly to show a sign of strength. The Philippines speak softly to show a good education. The North Americans definitely speak faster than the South Americans. And the Italians and the Arabs speak faster than the United States. A great way to make it easy to learn paralanguage is to learn nuances. So as stated before, effectively knowing oral communication is important, but learning nonverbal communication is equally as important. And to follow me, Megan will explain proxemics.
So proxemics is the communication through the use of space. There are 4 zones. Your intimate, which is less than 18 inches, usually used for friends. You have your personal zone, which is 18 inches to 4 feet, and this is usually for giving instructions. Your social zone, which is 4 feet to 12 feet, and this is used more formal for business meetings and such. And then you have your public, which is your most formal and used the least often. Some countries that stand closer is like Latin America, the Greeks, Arabs, they stand closer than us in the United States, whereas the Japanese like a further distance than the United States. In China, they tend to avoid eye contact, but in the US, we usually place our chairs facing one another or speak facing one another so that we can promote eye contact. A sign of power or authority in the United States is usually a larger desk or a wooden desk, windows, security in your like typical office, whereas some other countries or like the French like smaller instead of larger. We are also in the United States, typically our higher power is placed on the top floor versus the first floor, where the French like one level and they like their authority in the middle so that they can be surrounded by their subordinates. Also, the Japanese don't find it appropriate to have offices, and only their top person will have one.
All right. A component of cross-cultural communication we find in business is something we call haptics. Haptics is something, another word for touch. In Western cultures, such as the U.S., we tend to shake hands. We don't hug or show intimate interaction because it is seen as less effective in business. Whereas in Western Europe, we find kissing, hugging, and embracing each other to be a sign of respect. As you go farther east in cultures, you find more of a dominant communication between business partners. In the U.S., there has been allegations as sexual harassment, and it has become detrimental in the workplace environment. Okay, haptics is beneficial in the workplace because it can show good communication between partners, coordinates, subordinates, and we use touch as a positive way of showing belongingness in the workplace, depending on what is considered appropriate. Understanding body language in the business world can indicate a better workplace environment.
Okay, so kinesthetics. It's the term used for communicating through various types of body movements, gestures, postures, and stance. You have your facial expressions, and that's how you usually use most expressive is the type of body language that you use. Could be through your face and through your eyes, and you could tell if someone's interested, if they're yawning, if they're not. If they're yawning, it could mean that they're bored. So some examples that in China, people rarely show emotion. They just kind of have the same expression no matter what they're doing, how they're feeling. People in Thailand are known as the land of smiles because they always seem to have a smile. They're happy no matter what's going on. Some others like to cover it up with a smile so that nobody really knows if something is wrong or how things are going. They just think everything's okay. So for gestures, it's a way of expressing language through emblems or symbols. And you have to be careful with what you use depending on what kind of culture you're in or where you're visiting. So thumbs up in the US could mean that something is okay or something is good, while in Australia and West Africa it could be seen as rude. And also in the Chinese and Japanese, they like to keep their hands and their arms closer to their bodies when speaking rather than having them farther out. And then so for posture and stance, it's the way somebody sits, stands, walks, anything like that. And you can either send a positive or a negative message by how you do those things. In the Arab, you avoid showing the sole of your shoe or pointing your foot at someone. The lowest part of your body could be seen as unclean or filthy. And then in India or Thailand and a few others, it could be insulting if you show the bottom of your feet. So you have to really be careful in how you express things and how you do things depending on where you go. So as we explained through our PowerPoint, the cultural differences and the nonverbal and communication is very important, especially when you're not used to those different culture people and the way that they do things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.